Today's session is on the long COVID support group. If I could just ask everybody to turn their mics off until the question and answer session, that'd be appreciated. So your team today are myself, Alex Ridley. I'm one of the Workforce Performance Programme Managers for the Integrated Care Northamptonshire, and we've got Dawn West supporting the call as the Learning Development Facilitator for NHFT. Could we please ask everyone to mute their mics to ensure that we've got no background noise? Today's session is being recorded and an audio transcription is available. If you've got any questions, please post these in the chat or use the raise your hand function towards the end of the call and we'll come to people as we can. So I'm absolutely delighted to welcome you all to our long COVID session today. The long COVID group has received some really positive feedback and is a real example of system working, offering support to colleagues all across Northamptonshire. In today's session, Hannah Proudfoot and Natashia Harris, who are our clinical psychologists and health psychologists, are going to be interviewing two of the staff members, Penny and Nina, about their experiences of long COVID and what they've learned on their journeys. These are very personal stories, so we've pre-recorded these interviews and we'll be sharing a short video. Following this, Nina, Penny and Natasha are joining us live for any questions. So if you do have any questions during the video, please pop them in the chat and we'll come to them at the end. Dawn, over to you for the video.
Hello, my name is Natashia Harris. I'm a clinical psychologist from Stronger Together, which is the staff support hub for health and social care across Northamptonshire. And I'm here with my colleague Hannah.
Hi, my name's Hannah Proudfoot and I'm a health psychologist at Northampton General Hospital in the Staff Psychological Wellbeing Service.
So Hannah and I have been working together for around 9 months now to co-facilitate the Northampton General long COVID support group and also subsequently the county-wide long COVID support group, which has been, the Northamptonshire group has been going for a bit longer than we've been involved actually, which feels important to say. And the county-wide group has learned a lot from the NGH group and that is why it exists. So we're here and joined by two colleagues who have experienced long COVID and we're grateful that they've agreed to share their experiences with us and with you. So we have Penny.
Hello, I'm Penny. I used to work at Northampton General Hospital as a staff nurse until last November. I was involved and I'm still involved in the county-wide groups and the NGH support group with both Hannah and Tash, which is how I met them and how I got involved and invited today.
And we also have Nina.
Oh, hi, my name is Nina. I'm staff at Northampton General Hospital in Holcourt Ward, and I've been invited today as I'm also part of the county-wide group and the NGH group as well. Thank you very much.
And we'll be discussing their journeys through long COVID and what's helped them along the way. So I'm going to hand over to Hannah.
Thank you. So Penny and Nina, I wondered if you could tell us a little bit about your experiences of having COVID and long COVID as well. So I'll come to Penny first, if that's okay.
Fine. Thank you very much, Hannah. And thank you everybody for giving me this opportunity to be able to talk about my journey. Part of this interview I've actually taken from a presentation that I gave last year at Northampton General Hospital when, as I said, I was working as a part-time staff nurse. And I gave it a title, and I think the title that I gave it then is still very apt to how I feel today. I gave it, I think I got away lightly, little did I know. And just one other point, I have tried to make this as anonymous as possible, but those people who are mentioned who have given their permission and were very pleased to do so. So in the beginning of my journey started in May 2020. And over that weekend, I felt a bit headachy, just under the weather, but no other symptoms. Just didn't really know what to do with myself, really. And they were none of the three recognised symptoms. So on the Monday morning, I put my little bit of my headache down to the fact it had been quite a muggy night. And we did have a discussion, my husband and I, and we said, no, forget about it. You know, I'm fine, really. I'll go to work. I said, I'll mention it when I get there. That's what I did. Nobody thought anything of it. We all said I was fine, carry on. And that's exactly what I did. But during the morning, I began to find out that one of the wards at the time had an outbreak of COVID over the weekend, and it was a lot of the doctors and the consultants that I dealt with on a day-to-day basis. So, and they were all being tested, and by about Tuesday and Wednesday, these results were beginning to come back positive. So I thought, maybe I ought to go and have a PCR test. So I did actually have quite some resistance from my colleagues to actually go and do this, but I stuck by my guns and went. Came back, carried on working, and until the Thursday, and I was actually off on the Friday. Still had no recognisable symptoms, just put it really down to the fact that, you know, it was hot, but by that stage, the ventilation and the aircon in the apartment had been turned off, so it was very hot, and we were all wearing PPE. Just carried on. But on Saturday, my result came back positive. At that stage, my family weren't showing any real concern. I'm not so sure whether they were or they weren't, but they weren't showing any concern. And basically, I wasn't really showing any symptoms. So we just started going through the isolation protocol. But my first identifiable COVID symptom really came the following morning, and that was lack of taste and smell. And it has become a family joke over a tin of corned beef, because about 3 days later, my husband gave me a sandwich for lunch. He loves corned beef. It was the only tin we got in the house. And he said, well, that's quite a strong smell. I'll give her that and taste. And I had to open the sandwich to see what was in it. So this Christmas, he actually got a tin of corned beef as a Christmas present. I then became very tired and breathless over the next few days. But because I had really had COVID for some days at that stage, unknowingly, obviously, we didn't really sort of follow the isolation policy to the nth degree. Like, I did actually come downstairs. Everybody kept away from me, but I did go downstairs and I did try and sit in the garden. But really, it was for about 2 or 3 minutes, and that was about it. And I'd had enough. Really, it was to get enough energy to go back upstairs and go back to bed. And this just went on, and the episodes of the breathing just continued. Well, actually, until I was doing absolutely nothing. And that was one that really panicked my husband, because I'd just get there and I'd go really breathless and he didn't know what to do. And that went on for weeks. I then lost my voice. I'm quite sure my family probably enjoyed that bit, but never mind, I didn't. And that continued for a major symptom for months. I also had tremendous muscle aches and cramps, which kept me awake. And after several months of this, I was actually prescribed amitriptyline, which I took for about 4 months, but then I decided to wean myself off that. Sleep-wise, my sleep pattern has now improved, and at that stage, I was having horrendous sleep and terrible cramps, and really none of that really worked very well at that stage. But that's improved. So I was then left with really dry eye syndrome and terrible problems with my legs, which are actually in the process of still being treated. How do I know I got long COVID? I don't really know, because at that stage there was no real diagnosis of long COVID. Remember, this was very early on, but the only real identification I could say that I'd gone from having COVID to long COVID was about a month after I'd been involved in the Zoe study, and they'd asked me to do another PCR test, which I did. And that was interesting, because that felt to me that this was an indication that my symptoms were long term, and they were. Long COVID obviously wasn't very known at this stage, and of course, going to my GP, they were learning as well. And my GP was very supportive, and really didn't know what to do. But apart from allowing me time to rest, having at that stage really ensured that nothing else was going on. So I'd like to pass that now back to Hannah.
Thanks, Penny. Thank you very much for sharing that with us. And I'll just come over to Neena now to hear about your experience of COVID and long COVID as well.
Thank you. Well, mine it was I was diagnosed in September 2020, and at that time we knew a little bit more than when Penny was diagnosed, but it was still new to everyone. It was either you remain to ITU, intensive therapy unit, or you just have 2 weeks of flu and a cold, and then you get back to normal, really. And it was just a respiratory virus. But I was shocked that I had it because, I was really cleaning everything that I was doing. And then my first thought was, oh no, I'm going to die. I've got 2 kids, are they going to be able to even have a shower without me telling them? Silly thing was going through my head, at that time. But I was lucky. I wasn't admitted to the hospital because I'm quite stubborn and I can do everything myself. But the first thing that I did lose, it was my taste and my smell. And it was gone completely. Like we could put what is it called, the mental taste, and I could not taste or smell anything. My husband was quite shocked with that, but it was horrible. You don't realize until you lose it. And I work on stroke team as well, so I understand from a stroke point of view, a patient who one day can do everything and the next can't, and even smelling or tasting is completely different. So I look into research on how I could get it back, and there was a thing on BBC as well, is get the routine that you used to do. So know that you go tea every morning, have your tea every morning, and then you will come back. It still hasn't come back, but hey ho. I can still smell a little bit. So I do smell if my kid smells a bit or something and hasn't have a shower. So that's fine. But it was quite a shock at the beginning, and I lost my appetite from it because even though you could see the food, you don't eat as much. And I was sent from work because I suffered with breathlessness, with fever, with a cough, with a sore throat, and vomiting and diarrhea. So I was sent home from work, and I did, like I said, I'm quite lucky enough to have a room where I could isolate on my own with other kids, and I had my own bathroom, so my husband would just bring me the food. But that's an emotional turmoil as well because you don't see anyone. Their touch, their smell, their little smile, even the spot on their faces you can't see, and it's not the same on WhatsApp. But anyway, it was quite sad. But I slowly got back to work. I slowly got back to normal. My matron at that time was amazing. He kept in touch with me, and by November time, I had a new post as well because I just applied for a new post as well. But no one knew me then. It was completely like new staff, new everything, and from stroke to medical. So November I started, and then I started to have a swelling joints. But how can I go to my manager? Started complaining, I'm in pain, and I was so stubborn that I said, no, I'm going to ring the doctor, and it's nothing, it'll pass. But my doctor was quite good, like I'm placed, so it's been amazing in referring me to rheumatology straight away, and obviously managed the symptoms with painkillers, with laxatives, with I started to wear like 2 big rib supports for my knees and stuff. But whatever I did, whatever I tried, it was I crashed down, and thanks God I was on holiday when I crashed down. So by relaxing during my holiday, I got better. But by January time, I started back to work, and my arthritis went from not to everything, from head to toes as well. I was swelling up, I was in pain, and I started a sick note really. I was sick for 2 weeks, and that was bad enough because my head, oh my God, I wanted to work. I was emailing my manager. I said, give me something. I can work. My mental work, and I can still work, but physically I can't. So you need to give me something. Anyhow, it's only a few days before I started work for my phase return. She gave me some work, and that was to look into the well-being of some staff because they were affected as well by long COVID. So I got, by March 2020, just before I started my phase return, I started to lose my voice. And it was on and off. It wasn't completely at first. So I rang the doctor. I said, there's something new. I lost my voice. But when I spoke to the doctor, I had my voice. She said, no, she's messing me about. And I didn't want to waste the doctor's time neither. So they said, okay, do a pig flow at home. You're a nurse, you know what you're doing. I did that. But however, I lost my voice completely then. But my manager said, "Are you ready to do your phase return?" I said, "Well, if I don't try, I won't know." So I still went back to work, and I was frustrated then because I couldn't do it. Physically, I couldn't do it. So I was quite frustrated. Anyhow, I had pins and needles, and I contacted my GP. Once again, it was amazing, leg on place. They referred me to ear, nose, and throat neurology as well, swallowing and language therapist, respiratory training, respiratory clinic, and long COVID clinic as well. And the doctor said, "Don't worry, because you've reached 6 months now, so you're going to get better soon." Well, little did I know I didn't get better because I lost my voice after 6 months. So, I suffered with a new thing now, and that was chest pain. And I went back to off sick again, and I felt like I don't know how a heart attack feels, but I thought I had one. And it was so painful. I never had experienced anything like that, and I thought I was going to die. So, okay, I was angry now at myself because I'm not getting better. Doctors are not listening to me, or they can't hear me neither. I don't know which one. But I was really upset with everything, I was really down. It took a toll on my psychological effect. I wasn't able to talk anymore. I was misunderstood by everyone. But the worst thing is nobody had an answer. You know, it was new to everyone, and I had to understand that. But I did wish that, okay, I'm gonna start bargaining now, because if I can get better, I'll be better with everyone. I promise you, I help everyone. But the small part is I had to go back to A&E, and because I went to A&E so many times and they couldn't find anything, I called 111 and I said, I am going to drive to A&E because I haven't got a heart attack, because I know it's not a heart attack, but I've got chest pain and you need to do something about it because I can't breathe, And I was breathless, and my rheumatologist said, you need to go to the hospital. So I did go to the hospital, and I saw a doctor, Agent Mohammed, and he was amazing. He treated me like a person, not like somebody who had long COVID, but like a human being, and say, okay, we test you for all this. And I think it was costochondritis, so you just need painkillers. I say, what? I say, all this pain. And they give me the pain, and the next day, oh my God, I felt like a new person, I could move, I could do everything. And I rang my mum and I said, costochondritis, and she said, oh yes, do you know what? I had a friend like many, many years ago, and I should have told you the things. It's a bit late now, Mum. It's all right, no problem. But like I said, COVID is a small part of long COVID or having COVID, because you're still a person, And yes, as soon as you've got COVID or long COVID, you think about all the responsibility that you have as a person, as a mom, as a dad, as everything. And I know men doesn't come forward with it because, they're tough, they can deal with it. And women are more like, oh, well, I've got a symptom, I need to treat it. But you need to remember to take your time, and you need to remember that, yes, you will get better. And yes, I do have my voice back, but it's not quite there yet. But I do have a voice. But, as a small part and a small responsibility, but you need to accept it as well. And it's the acceptance that's the hardest bit, really, and to get the help. But yeah, I'll pass it back to Hannah, and that was me. Thank you.
Thanks, Neena. Thank you so much for sharing.
So I guess the next thing that would be helpful to talk about is what support that you found most helpful through this experience. And if I come to Neena first.
Oh, hi. Well, I have to have to talk about my family first, my husband and my kids. They were amazing support, even though they were telling me that to slow down. I just couldn't slow down, but they were always there for me. And my mom rang me every day, and she lives in France as well. In terms of social life, my friends were here. But then, when I lost my voice, there's just so much you can say, really. And then you start secluding yourself because you don't want to bother anyone, really. But they're always there on the phone call and on an email or text and things like that. They were so nice. In terms of work life, well, I'm grateful to my manager to have agreed for me to do therapeutic hours. And the only downside about it is I didn't know what she was expecting of me. But therapeutic hours is just you work whatever you can until you're able to work to your full potential, which is now. But I was quite proactive with it, and I teach nurses how to use their syringe driver and things like that. I have to say thank you to my old manager as well, Jenny Scott and Sonia Zubin, who was the band six, my band six. They were amazing. Even though I couldn't speak, they were always talking to me, always reassuring me, always giving me hope. And I think that's a big thing, is to give people hope as well, that you're not going to lose your job. You need to slow down. You need to make yourself better before you back to your normal self, really. But Northampton General Hospital also began the briefing as well, which was really helpful, and helped me to keep in touch with what was going on in the hospital. So I've contacted Baveen, who's the organization development, and she helped me to organize some training into leadership training and things that I could do at home in my own time on Teams as well. So you didn't have to go to work. And it was all on email, it was all on team, and she was amazing as well. I had amazing support with her. Um, I've already talked about the syringe driver, and I have to say thank you to all the palliative team, because they were really helpful, just even talking to me, just trying to get through with what I was going through. And it was really nice. Um, Before I accepted help with health well-being, the well-being team, I needed to accept it for myself. But what I did is I wasn't still an acceptance to myself. So I've just contacted Muya and gone to the COVID group to help others, to see what I could help with other thing, with focusing on for symptom management at that time. And that was quite helpful to know that we weren't alone, really. However, Muya was brilliant. She was helping us not just with the long COVID, with anything in terms of the well-being of yourselves. She helped as well in solving some issues that I have with Hannah as well. Um, I was referred to the long COVID clinic by the NHFT back in March, but it's only in July that I saw Sarah, who was amazing, face to face, because she couldn't hear me on the phone. Bless her, she was amazing. Like, she was just advising me to slow down. She asked me for the spoon therapy, like as I spoke before, and it was the well-being altogether as well. And the stress that I had, did my manager was aware about it, or was that me putting it on myself? And if I, like I said, if I don't discuss it, then nobody will know about it. But I had problem with my breathing as well, so she referred me to Aileen and Jules, which are the breathing space kicking COVID back, and they were amazing support as well. They were kind of the same of the long COVID that we have in the NHS, but um, it was just some experience that everybody was sharing, and one of them lost his voice as well. And he said to me, he said, don't lose hope, you're going to find your voice and it's going to come really quickly. But it was helping us with physios, with meditation, with yoga, with all sorts of trainings as well. In August time, so when I lost my voice, it was in March, and in August time I saw the swallowing and language therapist, and she helped me. She was kind of my therapist at the time, just because I had a lot going on as well, not just to work but to life, because COVID affects you in different ways, but also you got life as well to think about. And at one point I was really, really down, and I contacted Andre Go, who is the OD and inclusion officer for the hospital. And bless him, I wanted to speak to him, and he was supposed to do a long COVID symptom management, but instead it was just me and him, because nobody else turned up. And I just burst into tears and told him all my problems, and he helped me. He just released me on what was happening, really. And I needed to speak to a therapist. So I've contacted Stronger Together. Little did I know there were psychiatrists in there, psychologists in there. And I spoke to Kathy, and she was out of this world. She just broke me within 2 minutes. And with her breaking me, I was able to manage my symptoms better, but also my life better, helping my kids, like making me the person that I used to be, really, and even a better person, really. And then I joined the county-wide group as well, which is NFST, and they concentrated more on the psychology impact that COVID symptom had on you. So, for example, if you couldn't breathe, how did it affect you mentally, but also physically? So you're able to relax yourself, to calm yourself, to know, don't walk too far, because you can't do it. So take your time and slow down. But all the journey, it was beneficial for me from the beginning to the end. And oh, also, I forgot to mention, I had occupational health in Northampton General Hospital, and the receptionist, oh my God, I don't know her name, but she's amazing. The doctor was late or something. She reassured me. She just kept coming and supporting me. I have problem with the mask, and she just kept coming, and she was just amazing. The waiting list is long to be referred to anyone, whether it's a long COVID group, not long COVID group is not, because it's by email, but to the long COVID Northampton from the NHFT is long. But at the end, they're there to support you. And if you don't ask for help, like I said, nobody will know. And it's just about yourself as well, just looking for the help that you can get, really. And there's loads out there. Thank you ever so much.
Thanks, Neena. I think I really liked what you said there about it being sort of basic things, actually, when you drew down to it, that people instilling a bit of hope and kindness and reassurance in times where you were seeking that support that made all the difference, like the receptionist just being kind to you at that time. And thank you, that's really helpful. And Penny, if I could ask you the same.
Yes, my story's a bit different to Neena's. I think you'll find that when I say this part, there are similarities, but they come from a very different perspective. Bear in mind that I got COVID at the very beginning, so long COVID at this stage really was something that was only being talked about and thought about. Nobody really knew what we were doing. But my initial support, like Neena's, came from family and friends. It was frightening for them at that stage. Nobody really knew what was going on, and because nationally the picture was very scary and still very unknown about what was going to happen to people. So as well as having symptoms of COVID, as I mentioned earlier, I felt very guilty about the fact that I've been at work, albeit unknowingly, with COVID. And it took me a long, long time to mentally get over that fact. And my husband really was brilliant in that. And was to say, no, you didn't know about it. You're fine. My surgery also were absolutely wonderful. I think they heard that conversation hundreds of times. That's Parkinson's surgery in Rushden, and they're very pleased that they're getting a mention. The GPs there were very, very good. Again, completely unknown territory to them. They didn't really know what to do with me. Basically, they did what they felt they needed to do, was obviously the generic sort of blood tests and things to make sure it was all right, but the best of it was actually support. It was the phone calls. So, however, really, it wasn't the same at work, and I'm sorry to say that, but at that stage, the majority of our department had COVID, but unlike me, I don't know whether it's just me or whether it's that I was older than they were or whatever, nobody will know. They recovered. So after their 2 weeks, as it was at the time, they all went back to work. Yes, they felt a bit tired, but they were fine. And that was what I was getting. I felt pressurised to go back. And of course, the more you're pressurised, the more guilty you feel you're not there. So I did it after a few months. I thought, I've got to go and give this a go. I did go back. I ended to go back at the end of July. And I did have another member of staff that actually came and worked alongside me for the few hours I was there. But the mental strain that I was going through at that stage was terrible. And I was really struggling. My mental health at this stage obviously had hit rock bottom. And I just got this feeling that I just didn't feel I was being believed. And there was a lack of understanding of what I was going through. And when you'd be better if you were at work. And I know that it was probably people's way of trying to support and trying to make me sort of, I won't say snap out of it, but it wasn't working, and that doesn't work with me anyway. So I tried again. After about a month or so, I went back to work, and I remember sitting in the car one day, absolutely in tears, thinking, I just can't go into that building. So I rang Rocky Health, well, and I spoke to Emma, and Emma was absolutely amazing. She sat in the car on the phone in the car with me for at least half an hour, and I then went to work, and then I arranged a face-to-face meeting with her the following day. At last I felt supported, and I felt I could go in and I could do my job to the best of my ability. And I really felt if it hadn't been for that, I would not have gone back. I would have turned the car around and gone home. And I relied on Emma's support along with lots of others until I finally, when I actually left my job about a year later, and her support was actually invaluable. So along with Emma and along with members of the health and wellbeing team at that stage, because at that stage I've been in contact with Moya, I gradually managed to cope with the workload, and the feeling of I just had to get on with it, really. That's what I was feeling, but struggled when I got home. At this stage, through Emma and through Rocky Health, they referred me to counselling, and that was good support. I didn't feel it. I got something out of it, and it did help with my mental state, but I didn't feel that I needed to carry it on for too long, because I think at that stage I got in contact with Moya, and they were supporting me in a way that I didn't need with counselling at that stage. So that was when I began to find out about the local the long COVID support group. And as soon as that started, I think I was probably the first member of that group. That was it. I was in front of my computer that day thinking, this is it. I'm definitely doing this. And wow, that was fantastic. Suddenly I realised there were people out there. I wasn't the only one going through this. And the support of that has been invaluable over the last year. And because of that, I decided that we ought to set up a WhatsApp group. And the WhatsApp group was set up slightly selfishly on my part, because I knew that I would get something out of it as well. And also to allow other members and other members of staff who weren't able to join the group as virtual meetings to actually join. And when you're sitting there at sort of 6 o'clock in the evening, feeling a bit down or whatever, you knew that there was somebody there to just send a message off to, and also ended up being a very good resource base. And we are carrying that on. One other aside that I did join, which ended up being fantastic support, but it's actually got nothing to do, I'm afraid, with health and wellbeing or anything to do with NHS or any money, was I joined a choir. Now, this makes everybody laugh because the choir is called the Tuneless Choir. But what the Tuneless Choir did meant that it was virtual, sat in front of the computer, and I still do, once a week. We sing away. We've got support now, and wow, my voice got better, my breathing got better, and nobody in my house had to hear me. It was lovely. So I really did do that, and that has been a wonderful support network for friendship as well, and we're actually singing in a festival in July. So my support, yes, I think I've got to say, is almost been what I found, but what I've had has been really good. So thank you. Thank you for that question.
Thank you. I think as well, there is some crossover, isn't there, in terms of you mentioned that sense, that building sense, and we've talked about this in the group as well, the building sense that people just didn't understand around you, and at worst people didn't believe what was going on, and both of you referred to sort of the managing the psychological aspects of a long-term condition, and I feel like that's the nub of it sometimes, isn't it? It's like how we're feeling other people are seeing us and perceiving us, how we manage some of those difficult experiences, and also when people don't believe us or don't support us, because that is a reality in some cases, isn't it? So thank you for sharing all of that. It's really helpful. I hope I'm sure that people will hear that and resonate with what you've just said.
I wonder if I can ask you, what have you learned from this experience as a whole, and and I'll come to Nina first on this one.
Hi. So from what I've learned is that doctors on learning with us, learning with whoever has COVID or long COVID, and the similarity of obviously the symptoms of everyone. And everyone is different. Everyone will have different symptoms, different different signs as well. So it could be, you can't see fatigued, for example. You can't see somebody fatigued. You can obviously see someone who's got swollen joint, for example. So we just need to be able to understand and sympathize with them really, and make sure that we don't judge, we don't neglect our needs as well. You know, if you need a rest, then you're entitled to have a rest, you know. But what I've learned is that I hope that people would understand more into the psychological effect that the symptom has on them, and be able to manage it better, to be able to manage the symptoms, you know. So for example, understanding that you've got no control over it, you know, that's something that we can't do anything about it, and the quicker you accept that, the better you'll be. And to use maybe a spoon therapy, which I've learned with my occupational health Sarah, is about how much you can do in a day, and not to overdo it, because otherwise you'll be tired the next day, and to put your energy where is needed. So, you know, what is matter to you. So for example, as a woman and as a mother, ironing and cleaning the house is not a priority. You know, look after yourself, you know, have yourself a shower instead, or have a little walk instead. You know, nobody's going to be affected if your house is a bit dusty. That's what my occupational health say, bless her. Yeah, and I have seen a counselor as well to be able to get through it, and she was amazing, from Stronger Together, and her name is Kathy, and she was really, really nice. And it's hard to accept it, and it's really hard to change, don't get me wrong. It took me a year and a half to be able to accept it, you know. So, you know, but there is support out there, and it's for you to go and get it. It's not, otherwise we not know. We can't help somebody who doesn't say anything. But that's my advice for everyone.
Thank you so much, Nina. I really liked what you said there about kind of giving yourself compassion and understanding, and to other people as well, because you might never know what other people are going through, but also giving yourself that's the same sort of treatment as well. That's really nice. Thank you. Penny, I'll come to you as well to hear what you've learned from this experience.
To be honest, I don't really know what else I can say to add to Nina's wonderful bit about experience. I think she's captured it all. I would agree entirely with acceptance. I would agree entirely with the comment about it as being a learning curve for everybody, not only the people who suffer it, but everybody who's been involved with it. From my own experience, it gave me a bit of a wake-up call, I think, is the way you'd like to look at it. I planned anyway to maybe retire in a couple of years or so. I just realised that there was a life out there, and I was hitting my head against a brick wall, and I was really struggling, and I just found that it just really wasn't going to be for me, which, to be honest, was the best thing in a way I did. I had to look at my own well-being. My long COVID was not going to get any better if I actually continued to do what I was doing. So I made that decision. So what have I been doing with it? Well, I've been travelling. I've been to Scotland, which is where my husband works most of the summer. I've relaxed. I'm actually taking more care of myself. That's difficult when you're a nurse, isn't it? We're not very good at that one. And consequently, I feel a lot healthier. It's given me the time to be able to do things. My mental health has obviously improved. But have I recovered? No, I wouldn't say I have. Not completely. Even though I still suffer some of the impacts of COVID, and some of the medical problems actually that I've been left with are still being treated, and they're in the process of having one of them treated at the moment. But the breathlessness, the mood swings, the fatigue, which I actually thought had gone, no. I can still, for no warning, they all come back. Hopefully, time they will continue to improve with time. The other thing I learned from it is actually, I suppose I'm quite a nosy person. I like to know what I'm dealing with. And I realised that this is really fresh for everybody. I didn't want people to go through the same journey I'd been through. I wanted people to be able to cope better and have more support. So I researched it, and wow, haven't things evolved over the last 2 years? And I've been fortunate enough to be able to use this knowledge and my own experiences to be able to help with the setting up and the management of both the NGH and county-wide groups. And I'd like them to thank them all for allowing me to do this and being involved. So that is part of my experience, because that's the thing I wouldn't have done if the journey hadn't gone the way it was. So I think that's all I can say at the moment, Hannah.
Thank you, Penny. I mean, that was a lot of wonderful learnings that you've had there, and I really liked what you said there about realizing what matters to you as well, and the importance of your own health and well-being, and how much that has helped you, even though you're still struggling with things. So and then giving back to other people as well. That's really lovely. So thank you.
So we've thought a bit about what support has helped you along the way, and I guess it leads me to think, what advice would you give to someone who's recently been diagnosed with long COVID, or think that they might have been experiencing it? And if I come and ask you first, Penny.
I think looking through the experience I've had, a lot of it will be don't do what I did. And one of them was I beat myself up. Don't beat yourself up. Don't feel guilty. You've got to go with the flow. Don't feel pressurised to go back to work too early. Major mistake. Took me a lot longer to recover than it should have done. Allow yourself that time to recover. Don't suffer on your own. That's easy as well. As I've said, at the beginning, there wasn't a lot out there, and I did feel I was doing it on my own. There's no need to do that now. There is the help, the support out there. Don't suffer. Ask for that help. Get the advice. And it's one of the things I know Nina's mentioned is pacing yourself. Remember to pace yourself. Do what you feel you can cope with. Don't try and do anything that you know you really can't. Speak to your GP. Speak to anybody who there can help you. Get them to refer you to anybody who you may need to be referred to. Be referred to the long COVID assessment clinics. As I keep saying, there's lots of advice and support. Use it. And you'll probably find, because COVID's now been around for 2 years, so there are people who are out there who know where you can turn for that help. You may have friends, family members, there are colleagues who will be able to give you advice on where to go, and they may well be feeling in the same position that you are in now. They're the ones that can understand, and they can empathise with you. And I think that's the main bit of advice I would like to give, is just, and I'll finish off with that one, with don't feel guilty.
Thank you, Penny. And Nina?
Well, I think Penny said it all really, is do not panic, take your time. I felt like I was professionally set back, but I spoke to Mandy Macy as well, which is development and practice and development, and she makes sure that if there's training that you would like, you can do it, take your time, there's still funding for everyone. My GP as well was amazing, leg and play surgery. They referred me as soon as I had the symptoms. So, take the symptoms. Do not rush in what you're doing. Try not to panic, and try not to think about how other people are perceiving you, right? You're the one suffering with it, nobody else there. But make sure you drink plenty, you hydrate yourself, you look after yourself, and you do the little thing that helps you, isn't it? if, for example, you got chest pain, don't crouch. Sit yourself straight, you know. I know it's hard and self-reflect. Oh my God, it took me a year, like I said. But little thing that you can do for yourself, try it. And like Penny said, refer yourself. Once you speak to the GP, if you go Sulin Jump, I need to be referred to rheumatology, you know. Just make sure you refer to the right person as soon as possible, because the waiting list is quite long, and how urgent is going to be depending on the GP really. And the breathing as well. There was from long COVID, um, from the NFT long COVID clinic. They referred me to Judith as well, who's an opera singer, but she does work with everyone on Facebook, you know. And then the way she makes you work is really hard. You do what you can. Obviously, nobody's forcing you to do more than what you can. But afterwards, you feel so much better, you know. And there's a lot of things with yoga and meditation as well, which is online, which is not for everyone, which I can understand. But sometimes, you know, it does help. But that's me. Thank you very much.
Thank you to you both. I think you've said so much there in terms of the things that you found specifically helpful and what you would try again. But something that you've kind of both highlighted there is just to give things a go, like finding a singing group and finding an opera singer. We don't know what's going to be helpful, and some of the unexpected things have been the things that have been sort of life-changing for you on this journey, I guess. So I really like that you're kind of just saying give things a go and give yourself some grace and time. Yeah, so thank you.
Thank you so much, Penny and Neena, for sharing your experiences of long COVID with us today, and for everything that you've done to help others who are going through something similar as well. And I can imagine that it can be a really isolating experience. And it sounds like you've both really benefited from the support that you've found or you've helped to create. So I just wanted to speak to the support that is available for anyone who has or thinks that they have long COVID. So in terms of support for physical symptoms of long COVID, we'd probably suggest that to go to your GP, who may be able to refer you on to post-COVID assessment services. And as for psychological support, the long COVID group at Northampton General Hospital that we spoke about is actually coming to a close, but we are setting up a new support group around September time of this year for Northampton General Hospital staff with any long-term condition, including long COVID. And so there will be more information about this, which will circulate nearer the time on the email briefings and also on the Health and Wellbeing intranet page as well. There is also, or there may be an opportunity to join a county-wide support group for long COVID as well. And this is available for all health and social care staff across Northamptonshire. So thank you again, Penny and Neena and Natasha, for today, and for everyone listening and being here today. We really appreciate it. So thank you.
Just whilst I've got the slides still up on the screen, just thank you all of you for that really detailed and insightful video, and a special thanks to Penny and Neena for sharing your stories. It's obviously been a long and at times quite difficult journey for you both, so we really do appreciate you taking the time to talk to us about this today. So on the screen you can see there's a list of people that Neena and Penny would like to thank. It's quite a long list. I'm sure it's not exhaustive. Obviously on their behalf, they just wanted to thank their colleagues and the teams that they've had access to, and people that have helped support them through their journey. Next slide, please, Dawn. As there's been discussed in the video, if you feel you need support for long COVID, there's a number of places this is available and the details are on the screen. We've also had a question come into the chat about where to start if you think you have long COVID. So hopefully with the tips in the video and the above detail, that will help to answer that. Natasha's also added some detail about the spoon theory into the chat down the side and some videos that might be useful. And Penny has shared the details of her choir and encourages you all to join that. So welcome to the call, Penny, Nina, Hannah and Natasha. If anybody's got any questions, please do put these in the chat or put your hand up to come on screen, and we'll be able to ask those questions. I just wanted to pick up on a couple of things that have come in already. So we've had a question around the prevalence of long COVID, whether that's higher in the BAME community as COVID was initially. And Hannah, you've replied on the chat to say that there is limited research out there as to whether the prevalence is higher, but it'd be interesting to explore that further. So that'd be interesting to see. We've also had a question and a comment come through. Natasha and Hannah, I don't know if you can help. A member of staff has had difficulties getting a referral to a long COVID clinic, and they weren't offered it until Occupational Health queried it because their GP wasn't aware of it. Is there any advice you can give in that situation? I presume this is still a relatively new initiative, I'm guessing, and it's getting it out there, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that you've had difficulty being referred. So we're not actually linked to the post-COVID assessment service, so our information is probably a little bit limited. So I apologise for that. But from our understanding of talking with the post-COVID assessment service, they've done quite a lot of training with GPs and got lots of messages out there and ideas of sort of sheets to help GPs know how to refer. There's quite a lot of a process, I understand, from the GP, having to do elimination tests and things like that. So the GP is the best place to start, really. And I'm really pleased that you've managed to get some support through occupational health to push that through. But unfortunately, from the physical aspects, it does have to go through the GP. So I hope that you get seen soon and that's resolved.
Thanks, Natasha. So Nina and Penny, we've had another question come in. Said it must have been so frustrating for you. As you say, it's taken a long time to accept the situation. So how do you stay focused and keep a positive outlook when you're going through that challenge? I think you're on mute, Penny.
And after 2 years, I still forget to turn off the mute button. I think really it was small steps. I remember when I had some surgery a very long time ago, and I remember being told, keep looking back at what you could do at the beginning of that week and what you can now do. And I used that theory when I had COVID. Well, last Sunday I really was breathless. Last Sunday I couldn't do this. Last Sunday I can't move. This Sunday, yes, I'm still breathless. Yes, I'm still struggling, but actually I'm a little bit better. And I think it was being a bit positive and just taking very, very small steps at a time. And I think that was what kept me going, really. And also really trying to relax, look after yourselves, and all the things that Nina and I have said earlier on. So I hope that answers your question.
Thanks, Penny. Nina, did you want to add anything?
No, I think Penny just said it all as well. It's just taking your time. Remaining positive is really difficult, especially at a time like that, I'm not going to lie. And when you're suffering, you can't be positive. It's really difficult, like I said. However, like Penny said, just relax for one day and then the next day will be better. If you take your time, next day will be better. And talk to people, if you can, just talk to people. And I've got a great family as well. I've got 2 beautiful kids, and just looking at them smiling at me just give me strength. So, find what gives you strength and concentrate on it, really.
Thank you. That's what difference you feel that having the long COVID group there to support you made to your recovery?
I'll start. Absolutely tremendous. And I think I alluded to that in my in the interview, that really I felt very much on my own. I was in a way quite an early sufferer from COVID. I was working with people who really, yes, had it, but didn't really understand what long COVID was. Long COVID, as I said, was evolving all the time. People didn't really know what it was. They were relating it to chronic fatigue, an ME and what when I was younger was obviously called yuppie flu in the 80s. And I think suddenly having a group where there were actually like-minded people, we all had the same symptoms, we could all talk to each other. And when I set up the WhatsApp group, that was the one thing with that, was that people could suddenly say, actually, I've got this today. Oh yeah, well, and you suddenly get people going, well, I've had that, this is what I did. It may not work for you, but it might, you know, try it, see what you can do. And just knowing that there was somebody there, and that was with the long support group, that every month, and I think we started off at the very beginning of it very much telling our stories, and then after that, then obviously it became more focused on the symptoms and things, and allowed us then to sort of just look at how we can manage our own conditions. So I would thank it absolutely tremendously, and I think in whatever form it carries on, I think anybody with any condition, I think it will be really good support for them.
Thanks, Penny. Neena, I presume you echo those sentiments.
Yeah, of course. I think it was more of an awareness for me that I wasn't alone, like she said. And it was more of an awareness as well for the hospital that is more than one person suffering from it. And that we all have different posts and we all have different responsibility. But it's just like sometimes we were talking about how can managers as treating us. So, well, I was lucky because I was my therapeutic hours, but like problem that we had at work as well, that we could Moya could solve or could help us solve it really. And then like more Penny said, it was more focused onto symptom management and what we could do to help ourselves. And it was an awareness for the managers as well. There's more than one person suffering from it, and how they could help us supporting us as well.
Yeah, I think somebody's made a comment in the chat that it can be quite a lonely condition, so it's great to hear that the awareness is getting out there and you're getting the support. So thank you all again for sharing your personal stories. I really appreciate you taking the time to do that. It's been, I think, a really powerful hour and a really powerful session. So thank you again, and thank you, Natasha and Hannah, for the work you're doing with the long COVID group. So just to make everyone aware, if anyone's been affected by the information or experiences shared in this video and would like to seek support or advice, then please do contact the teams that we've got up on the slide on the screen. As you know, and we always encourage everyone to share their feedback, so please do share some feedback about today's session. We've got the QR code on the screen that you can scan, or the link has been put in the chat box. I've also got the wellbeingfestival.live website, and we'd encourage you to have a look on there for activities and resources. And not to mention, of course, we still do have the rest of today and tomorrow full of activities and sessions that we'd love you to have a look at and get involved in any that you might take your fancy this week. And then just a last shout to say we've obviously got our social media pages, Twitter, Instagram and Facebook. And if you are tweeting about us, to use the hashtag VWBF22. So thank you again. Thank you all for your time. Particular thanks go to Natasha, Penny, Hannah and Neena for their time on the session today. And I hope you have a great rest of your day. Thanks, everybody.